Hi, it's Carter, president of ConstitutionalRightsPack.com. ConstitutionalRightsPack.com. Go there, sign up for our free morning newsletter. You are going to love it, all the news you really need. And every afternoon you get my insider update. Okay? Comes in a variety of formats, but it's always the inside scoop on what's really going on. Now, as you can see, those of you who follow me regularly, I am down in the basement, in the weight room, in the dungeon. So, just finished working out. That's always a little tough, and it always prompts me for a little, well, tough talk. And I have my hat on. You may have noticed, you've never seen me wear a hat backwards like this. The reason I have it on, let me take it off here, is because it was when I saw a picture of a politician. I think it was on the front of one of the gentleman's workout magazines years ago. Saw him poised on a weight bench with his hat on backwards, that I knew what a total phony, like most politicians actually are, he was. Okay? It's my Jackson hat, by the way. Good friends down the street on a construction company. I'll put in a word for them there. There you go. Great people, great people. So why do I say he was a phony? Well, he was a typical politician. I'm going to get to the larger point in a minute, but I asked my friends. At that time, I didn't have the dungeon here. This was 2016, I think, or no, it was actually 2012, because the politician, the phony politician, was Ryan, who was running for vice president. Didn't like him, knew he was a phony. When I saw the picture, I knew, yeah, he's a patent phony, because I've worked out in a lot of gyms for a long time. I work out with a lot of serious weightlifters, and I showed them the picture, and they all just laughed, and they said, he's making himself out to be some serious weightlifter. That's what the article's about, that he was really a serious weightlifter. And they said, what kind of serious weightlifter goes to the gym with their hat on backwards? Let me put it this way. Have you ever tried to do a bench press with your hat on backwards? Ever tried to do an incline press with your hat on backwards? Ever try to do a machine incline flies with your hat on backwards? Come on, stop it. Phony, a phony. Even down to his picture on the front of a men's workout magazine. So that's what you're dealing with politicians, okay? Phony to the core, And that brings me to the main point here. I want you to go to ConstitutionalRightsPack.com. Subscribe today, because I put a column up yesterday called The Signpost Up Ahead. Now, some of you are going, the Signpost Up Ahead, what's that from? Well, it's from Rod Sterling's Introduction to the Twilight Zone. You see the signpost up ahead, welcome to the Twilight Zone. And the column is about the signpost up ahead for those who are going to Washington, that you are entering a freak show. You are entering a space, a place where nothing is as it seems to be. You're entering an arena controlled by those who are deceiving you day in and day out. They've created their own little world of politics, of power, payola, and prestige, and that's all they care about. All they care about. They don't care about you, the voter, in the slightest. John Kennedy used to say, and it's in my article, it's a Clues Views column. And I think you're going to love it. John Kennedy used to say that so many of his colleagues said it was a young senator seemed to come here to do good and end up doing well. Harry Truman said they get Potomac fever, which causes swelled heads and total self-aggrandizement, self-indulgence, okay? That's what we're dealing with. And I bring the point home by reminding people that's what happened to Donald Trump. I remember I had lunch with a very good friend of Trump's right when he got elected. The man was a very good friend. I said, you need to warn him. Washington is not New York. He's not dealing with business people who are looking to build a building. And you may fuss and argue with them, even cuss at each other, but in the end you have a building to build. When you're dealing with politicians, there is no building. There's only an oversized ego, an overstuffed persona, and that's all they care about. I said, please pass that on to him. I've worked here at that time, it was over 40 years. And I said, he has to understand they will never, the politicians will never deal honestly with him. They'll take advantage of him. Those who he thinks are closest will stab him in the back because all they care about is themselves. There's no building to build. There's just their ego. Trump didn't learn it, and you saw what happened to him over and over again. Schumer warned they have 6 waves from Sunday to get you. And they got him in all of them, didn't they? Now he's running again. They're trying to get him again, even to the point of blowing his brains out. As I said in an earlier post, anybody who still thinks that was not a plot, I've got some swampland in New Jersey I'd like to sell you. That's where we are. That's what Washington is. I'll close with this. When I first became the Director of Communications for the U.S. Senate, back in 1980, so that's how long ago it was, and there were like 5 or 6 employees, and I had never worked on Capitol Hill. And every time I knew we needed to invent new programs. I was going to revolutionize the communication structure, which we did. And every time I'd bring up I want to do something new, they would get that self-assured laugh and say, well, it's obvious you don't have any Hill experience, so we don't do that on the Hill. That's what they call it, where the Senate and House are, Capitol Hill. Every time. And I would come up with a new program and say, we really need to do this. It'll help to get the word out to the American people about what we're doing. You can't do that on the Hill. That was the line. You can't do that on the Hill. You can't do that on the Hill. You can't do that. Finally, one day I called a meeting after about 3 weeks, and I brought all 5 or 6 of them, whichever it was, in. And I said, I got to confess you've been right and I've been wrong. You've been right and I've been wrong. You kept telling me you can't do that on the Hill. Well, you were right. You can't do that on the Hill. At least not anymore, because you're all fired. Fired them all, en masse. I hired everyone with no Hill experience, no Washington experience, no inflated ego, no Potomac fever. And we did the first radio actualities, the first ever satellite feed, the first ever nationwide newsletter from the U.S. Senate. Things that the New York Times did an article about me and what we did there. Because I refused to become part of the establishment that destroyed Donald Trump in his first term and are trying to destroy him again. He's running for re-election. So just pick up the article. I say all this to tell you, just pick up the article. It's Clues Views. Go to constitutionalrightspack.com, read it. You're going to be a little shocked. You're going to be a little shocked at the revelations, but they're all true. It's why we need to get Trump back in there and hope and pray this time he tells everyone who comes to him and tells him what he can't do in Washington, that they're right. They can't do it in Washington because they're all fired, okay? Let's hope and pray that's where we go. Stay strong.